A group of thugs thought targeting a black woman in a Chicago alley would be easy, until they faced her elite military skills. Their humiliation went viral, sparking debates on strength and underestimation. What happened next will leave you speechless. But let's start from the beginning. Late on a chilly Friday evening, Maya Williams moved purposefully through the streets of downtown Chicago. The dim glow of streetlights reflected off damp pavement, the occasional puddle shimmering under the faint beams of passing cars. Maya, 30 years old, and of commanding presence despite her modest attire, wore a plain black hoodie pulled snugly over her head and a pair of well-worn jeans. Her lean, athletic frame and casual appearance revealed nothing of the strength and discipline she carried within. She moved with the ease of someone accustomed to these streets, but alert enough to avoid unnecessary attention. The city was alive with distant sounds, the hum of traffic, the occasional siren, and murmured conversations from late-night revelers. Yet, amidst this urban symphony, Maya's sharp instincts caught an anomaly. The subtle, synchronized footsteps trailing her. She didn't look back, but her sharp peripheral vision confirmed what her gut already told her. 3 men, their shadows stretching and shrinking under the flickering streetlights, were following her at a deliberate distance. Among them was Brad, the self-assured ringleader. At 35, his overconfidence was etched into his swagger, the kind born from years of petty crimes and close calls with law enforcement. His companions, younger and scruffier, followed his lead like loyal, if reckless, apprentices. Brad smirked as he murmured, "She's alone. This'll be quick." To him, Maya was just another woman walking alone at night, vulnerable, distracted, and unsuspecting. But Maya was none of those things. Her time in an elite military unit had sharpened her instincts to a razor's edge. She didn't panic. Instead, she adjusted her pace subtly, her mind working with mechanical precision. Every potential escape route, every object she could use as a weapon, every movement of the men behind her was catalogued and analyzed. When she reached an alley, a shortcut she knew well, Maya turned down it, her every step deliberate. The men exchanged quick, eager glances and followed. Brad, emboldened by her apparent isolation, whispered, "Now." Unbeknownst to them, they had just entered a battlefield designed for one victor. Brad and his crew spread out, blocking both exits of the narrow alley. The dim light cast jagged shadows across their faces, their overconfidence apparent in every smirk and relaxed stance. Brad, tall and broad-shouldered, stepped forward with an air of exaggerated swagger. "Let's not make this difficult," he said, his voice laced with mock civility. "Just hand over your wallet and phone, and no one gets hurt." Maya stood still, her heartbeat steady despite the tension in the air. Her calm demeanor was a stark contrast to the threatening energy of the group. "Are you sure you want to do this?" she asked evenly, her gaze fixed on Brad. Her composed tone momentarily threw him off, but he quickly dismissed it as bluffing. Pete, the wiry man with quick, jittery movements, took the lead, stepping toward Maya with a sneer. "Don't waste our time," he muttered, reaching for her bag. Before he could make contact, Maya reacted. With practiced precision, she shifted her weight and redirected his advance, sending him stumbling back. His balance faltered, and he landed hard on the ground, groaning in confusion, more than pain. The other two hesitated, their earlier confidence visibly shaken. Brad scowled. "Don't just stand there. Get her," he barked, his frustration cutting through the silence. The two rushed forward, their movements uncoordinated and rushed. Maya didn't wait. Her training took over as she maneuvered within the narrow confines of the alley, using her surroundings to her advantage. One misstep sent the first man into a wall, his momentum carrying him too far. The other swung clumsily, but Maya sidestepped and countered, forcing him back with a calculated movement that left him disoriented. Brad, now standing alone, looked between his fallen crew and Maya. The bravado drained from his face. Maya approached, her composure intact, her gaze steady. "Walk away," she said firmly, her tone leaving no room for argument. Without another word, Brad stumbled back, his hands raised defensively, and fled. As the alley fell silent, Maya exhaled and continued on her way, her focus unbroken. Breathing heavily but composed, Maya grabbed Brad by the collar of his jacket, lifting him slightly off the ground. Her movements were deliberate, her grip firm but controlled. "Who do you think you're messing with?" she demanded, her voice low and dripping with authority. The question cut through the haze of pain and fear clouding Brad's mind. He stared into her eyes, and for the first time, he noticed what he had missed earlier. The calm, focused confidence of someone who had faced far greater threats than him. I didn't know," he stammered, his bravado completely shattered. "We didn't mean any harm, I swear." Maya's lips curled into a humorless smirk. "Didn't mean harm?" she repeated, her tone sharp with disbelief. With a sudden motion, she released her grip, letting him fall to the ground in a heap. Brad scrambled backward, clutching at the ground as if it could shield him. "You think people like me don't fight back?" Maya continued, her voice rising just enough to emphasize her point. Reaching into her pocket, she pulled out a small, well-worn badge. The metal caught the dim light, its edges polished smooth from years of handling. It wasn't just any badge. It was a token of her service as a sergeant in an elite military unit, a symbol of discipline, survival, and combat expertise. Brad's eyes widened in horror as the reality sank in. She wasn't just a random woman on the street. She was a trained operative, someone far beyond his understanding. In the distance, the sharp wail of sirens pierced the night air. Maya's ears perked up, her senses still heightened. Somewhere nearby, a bystander had witnessed enough to call the police. She took one last look at the battered and humiliated group sprawled around the alley before stepping back. "You're lucky I'm letting the authorities handle you," she said coolly, her gaze lingering on Brad. Then, without another word, she turned and melted into the shadows of the city, disappearing as swiftly as she had struck, leaving only silence and a lasting lesson in her wake. The morning sun cast a golden glow over the bustling city, but it wasn't the weather that had people talking. News outlets were buzzing with reports of an attempted mugging that had gone spectacularly wrong. The details were as riveting as they were unexpected. A lone woman had fended off a group of attackers in an alley, leaving them battered and humiliated before vanishing into the night. Security footage from nearby cameras told the story in vivid detail. The grainy video captured Maya's swift, decisive movements as she dismantled her attackers with the precision of a trained professional. The footage quickly made its way online, sparking a flurry of social media posts and viral discussions. Hashtags like Silent Warrior and #Don't Mess with her trended for hours. Comment sections were flooded with debates about self-defense, empowerment, and the age-old lesson of never judging someone by their appearance. While the city marveled at the story, Brad and his crew faced a starkly different reality. After being arrested for attempted robbery, they sat in the confines of a county jail cell, their bruised egos far more painful than their physical injuries. "She moved like a ghost," one of them muttered, still nursing a sore arm. Brad scowled, but said nothing, the humiliation of being so thoroughly outmatched, silencing his usual bravado. For all of them, the incident marked the end of their criminal exploits. The memory of Maya's effortless takedown was enough to ensure that. As for Maya, life resumed its steady rhythm, or as close to normal as it could be for someone who had spent years on high alert, serving and defending others. The news barely registered for her. She had acted on instinct, doing what needed to be done. That evening, as the city lights flickered to life, Maya walked the same route home, her steps steady and confident. Her sharp gaze scanned the streets, but this time, there was no hint of danger. The calm, unshakable confidence in her stride spoke louder than words. For anyone observing, it was clear. This was not a person to be underestimated.